This is a WKYT podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Conversations with Victor and Andrea. I'm going to keep this intro fairly short. Andrea had to step off to anchor a newscast, but she will be back for the main conversation. Today, we're talking to a friend of mine, Benito Cereno. He is a comic book author. He's a podcaster. He's just kind of a jack of all trades. He's also very good at trivia. If he's ever out, I feel like he's got an 80 to 90% chance of bringing home the bacon that night. But he is going to talk with us about Kentucky folklore and legends and cryptids. If you know me, you know I'm a big monster fan. So Kentucky-based monsters is something we get into. We break this up into two different parts. This week we're going to talk about monsters, and then next week we really get into some well-known Kentucky ghosts. So here is the first part of our conversation with Benito. He's written some comic books that I've read. So to me, that's a big deal. The Tick, you know The Tick?
Yeah.
That's like he wrote the Tick comic book.
You stopped. I feel like you weren't expecting me to say yes. You're like, to what? You know something?
Yeah. I was like, you know that? Well, I was just so ready for you to be like, no, I don't know what you're talking about, and then I'd have to explain it. And instead, you said, yeah. Oh. Okay, well,
all right.
Cool.
This is one of those times where I think we've started, or we're going to start now, because we're going.
All right, yes, we are going.
We're cooking, we're rolling.
We are joined today by a friend of mine whose professional life crosses over somewhat perfectly for Halloween in our spooky series of podcasts. I don't know why that cracked me up. Joined today by Mr. Benito Cereno. Did I pronounce it properly?
Cereno, yeah.
Cereno?
Yeah.
There
so
we
that
go.
would be no.
Well,
you did not.
Cereno.
It was close, though.
I never use his last name, so, you know.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
All right. Now, are you originally from Kentucky?
No, I moved here in 2003. And
Okay.
I've been here. But I've lived in Kentucky longer than I've lived anywhere. So
there you go.
I consider myself a Kentucky boy.
So at this point,
I
a
like
Kentuckian.
Yeah.
So, because this is a podcast, you all can't see his shirt, but it kind of encapsulates what we're going to be talking about today. His shirt has Mammoth Cave Creature and a drawing of the Mammoth Cave Creature, I'm assuming.
Yeah. The thing about this one, though, actually, the Mammoth Cave Creature is a deliberate hoax, whereas the other ones I'll be talking about are like authentic legends, like not necessarily like they're real, but they're real legends, you know. Whereas this was a hoax by, I would suspect, Whit Heiler, but certainly by somebody at Kentucky for Kentucky. It was on Instagram. They took footage from, I think, deleted scenes from maybe Pacific Rim or something.
Was it Cloverfield or Pacific Rim or something like that? Where it's
one
like
of those.
A little creature.
And it's this, like, it looks like a giant, like, enormous woodlouse or something. And they made the footage look like it says, like, live from the Mammoth Cave, this creature was found.
Oh my gosh.
And they had this shirt on sale for like $5. So.
I remember seeing that and people being freaked out.
I don't know what it looks like. Davy Jones's face from Pirates of the Caribbean, and then maybe a lobster body.
Yeah, something like that.
See, in case people don't know what a louse is, because I don't. So I wanted to make sure and dumb it down for some of our listeners that listen for me.
I'll show you that video later on, Andrea.
Okay.
You'll be freaked out. But today we're going to talk about Kentucky legends that I guess some of these I've heard of, some of these I haven't.
You know, I feel like Kentucky is reputed to be a very haunted state. Like, there is a lot of supernatural stuff going on in the bluegrass. Mm-hmm. Do you have, like, a favorite that you want to start with, or maybe, like, ease into this?
I thought maybe we could start talking about, like, probably the most famous Kentucky legends. There are two that I think most people, if they know any from outside the state, the two they would know would be the Hopkinsville Goblins. Do you know that one, Victor?
I have heard of it before, but I don't know anything surrounding it.
Yeah, okay. It's one of the more famous cases of UFO contact, alien contact. So they're called the Hopkinsville Goblins. They're also called the Kelly Green Men because I think the people who witnessed the event, experienced the event, are actually from Kelly, but they went to the sheriff's office in Hopkinsville.
And so it was reported from Hopkinsville.
Yeah, right.
So this was something that was actually reported.
Yes, for sure. This was August 21st, 1955. And so there were 12 people, I think the Sutton family, and then they had some visitors at their home. They reported being attacked by little men, not green men, although that came to be associated with the story. They were called green men just because that's the generic term for aliens, right? But they surrounded the house, and they were peering in the windows, making noises and such. And they were described as looking like short and monkey-like, with long arms and webbed hands with talons, large, bright, offset eyes, and pointed ears. And so you can see where they got the description of calling them goblins.
Goblins, yeah.
Yeah. And there was a gunfight.
Heck yes, goblins and gunfights. Let's go.
Was there alcohol involved?
Possibly.
Moonshine, baby, moonshine.
But so they had a shotgun and a pistol, and they tried to fight off the goblins. And then when they went to report it to the police, they had 12 witnesses for this. And
that's a lot of good witnesses.
When they came back, they checked. They found no evidence of prints or tracks by the aliens. But they did find evidence of bullets hitting the ground.
From where they just been firing like crazy.
So they did shoot at something.
Yeah, they definitely shot at something, and there was definitely evidence of gunfire from inside the house. It's been explained in various ways that either it's a full-on hoax, or there was a meteor shower and they were confused about lights in the sky. But I think the most common explanation is what they saw were great horned owls, which would explain the kind of
little horns. Yeah, they saw the silhouettes or something.
But nonetheless, it's one of the most famous UFO encounters. And they celebrate still annually in August, and they have Little Green Men Days in Kelly. They have a little festival every year where people do alien-themed things.
I think that I could unintentionally
report something like this.
Yes, because one of my first times on the lake with Mr. X, who we've mentioned before, there was a goose or some geese on the water, and I go, "Oh, look, a swan!" And his mom and dad, it was the first time I met them, and they were just like
boy, this girl ain't very bright.
Wow, well done. Well done. You really found you a good one.
Look what you brought us.
Yeah.
All right.
My gosh.
So that legend was strong enough that it has now led to a, in Powell County, they've got the Corn Festival, but apparently they've got the goblin.
Yeah. So all 12 people that talked about this were together, right?
Yeah. They were all in one house, I think.
I feel like when you're going to debunk something, you need to have multiple accounts that don't know each other and have no idea that someone else saw what you saw.
Yeah, you definitely can have a mass hysteria feeding on each other. If you say, "Oh, look, I saw this," and then exactly.
Exactly. They need to be independent from each other.
Right. Let's see. The other one that I think is probably the most famous that is more of a monster rather than an alien is the Pope Lick monster.
I have heard of that one.
Yeah, you know that Pope Lick monster? And yesterday, actually, I was wearing my Pope Lick monster t-shirt. Where
do you come across these things? I already know this one. Where did the Pope Lick one come from?
The Pope Lick monster shirt came from a company called WHY Kentucky. I don't know if they're still around it, but I've seen someone else with the shirt, so I know that someone else has it.
They've sold at least two.
Yeah. So it's got so the Pope Lick monster he's a goat man. And so it's got a figure of him, and then it says across the top, it says "Goat Man Lives," and then at the bottom it says Pope Lick, Kentucky. So Pope Lick is a section of the Floyd's Fork Creek in the Fisherville area of Louisville. And the story is that the Pope Lick monster is a goat man that lives on or under a train trestle that runs over the creek. It's a real place. You can go there. You mayn't go there. You shouldn't go.
We had a story not too long ago of someone who died. Because they got hit by a train because they were looking for the Pope Lick monster.
I want to say 2016, 2017. Most recently, somebody died looking for the Pope Lick monster. Yeah. It's really dangerous. It is against the law. Do not do it. It is a popular spot for what they call legend tripping. People looking for.
Or do it if you feel like it. It's whatever. I feel like when you say, make it sound like you can't do it, everybody's like, I gotta do it now. I'm like, nah, it's not that cool, I swear.
No, legally, I believe we should tell people not to do it.
Well,
Andrea.
I'm telling you. Oh, yeah, because the people we cover on the news always are abiding by our laws.
The point is, Benito knows his stuff, and if he's saying stay away from it,
I trust you.
It is against the law. It is against the law, but because it's a very dangerous train trestle. It's way off the ground, and the story is basically that there's a goat man. He's got various different origins, where it's either he was a farmer who was sacrificing goats to Satan, and then he was resurrected as a goat man, or he was a goat man in a circus, and the circus train crashed off the trestle, and then he escaped into the woods, and he's been there, or
the good old-fashioned way.
Yeah. I don't see why it can't be both. I love that. I did a comic based on the story of the public monster, where the idea is both. So he's the farmer who's reincarnated as the goat man, then he ends up in the circus, then he escapes the circus. Yeah, and
I like that better.
Yeah, so he's like described. He's got wide set goat eyes and broad white face, short sharp horns, long greasy hair, and obviously goat legs. Obviously, what else would you? So depending on the version of the story, he might use hypnosis, or he might change his voice to sound like a child or someone that you know, to lure victims out onto the train tracks on the trestle.
Just like Pennywise.
That's way creepier, the child's voice.
Yeah. Or in some versions, if you're driving underneath, he would jump off the trestle onto your car. Or sometimes he's got a giant axe, and I don't know. I feel like that's not on. To be fair, hypnosis and vocal mimicry are not really on theme with a goat monster. But I mean,
anything.
Goats make interesting noises with their voices already.
He makes his own rules.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like the axe might not be canon.
Yeah, but so anyway, yeah, that's basically the idea. There was a movie in 1980, it was like a student movie or something, but like the 80s, I want to say 1988, called The Legend of the Public Monster. It used to be on YouTube. It wasn't there last time I looked.
Cult classic.
Yeah, but it tells the story, and the basic idea is you get lured out onto the trestle, which is, I don't know, 50 feet off the ground maybe, and you get frozen, and you either get hit by the train, or you jump off, or you fall off, and anyway it ends up with the goat man eating your intestines probably.
Wow. Now, so the people who have died, do you think that was just an accident, or do you think the goat man was involved?
I suspect it has to do with the fact that once you get out onto that trestle, you can't beat the train. Like it's a long gap from where you can get down. One area where you can get down to the other. So there's
no way to safely get off the train.
Yeah,
here's the thing: you can convince yourself of anything. When you know what I mean, like even. You never know. I can convince myself of anything.
That I believe.
I've rewritten my history many times in my head. But it's like, if you hear anything, you're like, oh my gosh, that's him. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, so you can totally see how someone, whether he's there or not.
Somebody freaks out and falls. Next thing you know, they're falling off a trestle.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. They see these bright lights coming towards them, but it turns out it's a train.
Dang it. Or I want the shirt. Maybe I'll just settle for the shirt.
I think the shirt might be good.
I feel like if you're news media, you could probably work out a license to go out there and
film. For some reason, like a story or something, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
If it were Halloween and it was thematically appropriate, you could probably...
What a novel thought.
Journalism, how does it work?
Yeah.
All right. Well, so those are the two biggies.
Yeah, I think those are the two most famous ones probably, but... There's plenty of others. There's way more than
I hear some of the lesser known.
I think there's way more than we have time for.
I want to know the ones that are near and dear to your heart, like your favorites.
Well, okay, so a lot of these one that I like because I think it's the first kind of one that I heard of from Kentucky. I don't have a whole big story about it, but it is more of what we would call an authentic cryptid because it's one people actually have cited and there's been reports of, whereas Public Monster is much more of a pure urban legend where it's just like a creepy story and you to warn kids from going out to the trestle or whatever. The first one I heard of was called Bearilla.
I like the name.
And yes, and my reaction to the name is generally leave it to Kentucky to be the state that has a cryptid named after two animals that it is not. Right.
Like bear and Godzilla?
No, so it's a bear. It's supposed to be
a gorilla.
A bear and a gorilla.
I got you.
But it's a werewolf.
I thought Godzilla too, but
yeah. So
it's a werewolf.
It's yeah. So yeah, I wanted to, a few years ago I wanted to make like some shirts, with Kentucky cryptids on them, and the idea I had for Bearilla was it would have the picture of Barilla on there, and then it would say half bear, half gorilla, all wolf.
Yeah. Oh my god.
For people who don't know, let's identify what a cryptid is.
I was going to say, I think we need to do that. I've heard that word, but I'm not totally clear. I think I know though.
Yeah. So cryptids are basically, well, you know, an average person would think of them as monsters, but technically, you know, from people who take them very seriously, and there are those people, the idea is that they are undiscovered species, which would include things like Bigfoot and Mothman, Loch Ness Monster. And so they're typically ones that people would have had sightings of, right? So it's not just like a ghost story, but rather there's some, you know, grainy Sasquatch footage of an animal like waving his arms.
So does this mean that there's maybe a colony of them, or could there just be one?
Well, theoretically, yeah. I mean, for a species to continue, there
because you need more than one.
I mean, a minimum species, minimum population. But yeah, for the
from what I know, barillas can just resurrect themselves.
Yeah, sure, why not?
Well, and so that's the other thing.
Kidding.
Kentucky recently had CryptidCon here.
Yeah.
It was at the same place that Lexicon, the board gaming convention that I go to, the same hotel.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So and they have, you know, experts and people who have filmed it. Yeah, you know.
People.
I want to go to this.
No, it was people flew in from all over the country. We were looking at the license plates. There was like New Jersey and California.
Why didn't you invite me?
Because we didn't know what was happening until we literally saw it, and we saw the sign that said "Welcome CryptidCon."
Guess what? I was probably doing nothing.
No, I
believe. You can call me at last minute's notice. I'm not. I believe you had nothing
going on, but that doesn't change the fact that it was Sunday and the show was wrapping up.
Fair enough. We can move on.
Sorry. So Barilla.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't have a whole thing about it, but like, it's also some people.
Where was Barilla?
Some people call it the gateway werewolf also because it's been sighted in the gateway region between the Bluegrass and Appalachia. So
okay.
The sightings go back to 1944 on that one. So it's not the only werewolf in Kentucky. Actually, a much more recent one is what they call the Waddy werewolf, which you can probably guess is in Waddy.
Where Waddy and Peytona.
Yeah.
One of my favorite
Waddy
exits.
Peytona. Oh my gosh, yes.
Right up there with Sharky farmers.
Even specifically the road. Apparently sightings on Ditto Road in Waddy. And 2012 is when we're talking about like people were reporting goats, sheep, and cattle being mutilated by what they claimed was the Waddy werewolf. But one going even farther back, one last werewolf that's even better because it's also the ghost of a werewolf.
Ooh, see, that's the thing. Ghosts are always just humans, and it's like, well, shouldn't everything else have a ghost too? Shouldn't there be like a ghost cow or a ghost?
There should be a werewolf ghost. Yeah.
All right, I like that.
And it's the beast of the land between the lakes, and so it's described as a gigantic half man, half wolf with walking on two legs, 5-fingered human hands with giant claws, and it smells really bad.
Yes.
Which is true of a number of these creatures. You can tell them by their horrible stench. But it's supposed to be over 7 feet tall, glowing eyes. But the story is that it is the ghost of a Native American shapeshifter who changed into a wolf man and then got killed.
Sorry, I'm knocking the thing over here. I'm too busy.
I thought maybe he died halfway through the transition.
Or so, yeah, sure, why not?
Well, I mean,
I just updated the myth.
Not
myth, the lore.
Yeah, all right. No, I like that, and that you see a lot of in Native American mythology. There is like some lycanthropy.
Yeah, sure, skinwalkers and such. Yeah,
that was the term.
Okay, I'm gonna do a new theme. What do you think is the most believable?
Ooh, well, like none.
The answer is none.
Like I enjoy all these stories, and
do you believe in any of them?
Well, here's the way I approach these kind of things. I do not believe they are literally true. I don't think that means they don't still have some kind of value, right? Ghosts, especially, I feel like you can find a lot of emotional truth at the core of ghost stories. That, to me, things like the literal truth of ghosts and such is often the least interesting thing about them. And so I'm definitely more interested in the emotional truth of these kind of stories. And so and to the point where like metaphors have such power and to us as humans that I feel like there's not much distinction between something that's emotionally true and literally true. Like it almost doesn't matter.
Perception is reality.
Yeah, for sure. And so like while I do not literally believe in any of these things, I don't think that there's a werewolf. I don't think there's a pig monster in Harrington Lake, which is another one we can talk about if you want. But and I don't really believe in ghosts or anything like that in a literal sense. That doesn't mean I don't still find power
and merit in
those things. Yeah.
This is literally me and pro wrestling.
So it's not real, but
it's real.
Yeah, there you go. It's ghost kayfabe.
There you go, ghost kayfabe. Yeah. But there's also a difference between, because a lot of the people, like you love these things. Yeah. You love these stories. I'm a big fan of them. There are other people who love them, like some of the people at Crypticon, they believe.
Oh, for sure.
And to them, this is real.
Yeah, and also because of that, I don't want to feel like I'm making fun of anybody.
You don't seem like that at all.
These are the kind of things that some people take very seriously, and they put a lot of stock in it, and they invest a lot of their personal.
Their identity is
Victor and I have talked about this. We're like, if you're passionate about something, I don't care what it is, and I won't judge you for it. I appreciate passion.
Yeah, sure. And so I think these are great. And again, while I don't think that there's, I don't literally believe in the hillbilly beast, for example.
Let's go.
Okay, yeah, let's go for the.
Whether you believe it or not is irrelevant at this point. Yeah, let's go hillbilly beast. Yeah, exactly.
So the hillbilly beast is it's a Sasquatch-like creature. It's basically a Kentucky Sasquatch, but apparently, according to what I was reading, there are sightings going back to Daniel Boone times on that one. I don't know if that's true, but foothills of eastern Kentucky, huge and hairy, smells bad, glides when it runs, has glowing yellow eyes and a ferocious howl.
I love it.
There was an episode of Monster Quest on the History Channel where they searched for the hillbilly beasts. So.
You know who else glides when they walk? Ivanka Trump.
All right, we're going to stay away from that.
And
I'm not making a political statement. I'm just saying she glides. So I'm going to picture the hillbilly beast gliding in an Ivanka Trump-like fashion. That is a compliment.
Oh, I couldn't tell. I didn't know.
No,
I didn't
I'm
know if
serious.
You're saying the beast must have a very
Well, when I
walk.
think of that, that's who I think of, because I remember that she gave that speech at the RNC, the RNC, where her hair was literally blowing in the wind, and I was just like, what does she bring these people with her?
Where was the hillbilly beast spotted?
Just eastern Kentucky. I don't have anything more specific.
Some of these things aren't as specifically regional. Okay.
Right. Yeah, but a lot of the monsters are Appalachian, and there's a lot of overlap with kind of generally Appalachian creatures. So like, not specific to Kentucky, but devil monkeys kind of run the Appalachian mountain.
I'm guessing the idea too is that there's just a lot of unexplored territory, just a lot of woods and hills, and there could be anything living up there.
Yeah, exactly. And the sheep squatch, that's really more of a West Virginia thing, but the border area of Kentucky, West Virginia, we get sheep squatch stories.
I love today. Okay, well, I'll tell you what, we're going to pause this, and we're going to you'll get to hear about the Harrington pig monster. Yeah. And more about devil monkeys when we come back next week for part 2.
Oh my gosh!
We'll split this into we'll be right back. So there you go. That's part 1. And like I said, we will continue that conversation next week. So Andrea told me that her favorite thing this week is the UK Women's Basketball Clinic that's going on. If you're listening to this on Friday, I think that's happening Sunday. She's excited for it. I don't know if she's actually going, but they had a pair of pink Nike tennis shoes that she wants to try to win. So we'll see if that worked out for her. My favorite thing this week, pretty simple. The wife and I went to go see Phil Collins on Wednesday, and we had a really good time. He still has a great voice and was able to just put on a good show. So that was the exciting thing that we did. So again, pretty short episode this week, but next week we get into it a little bit longer, and some really interesting stories, and including a well-known ghost in Lexington that I did not know was a thing, but apparently Andrea did, so you can be sure to check that around or listen for that next time. All right, everybody. Bye.